Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade.
We chronicled the distinct memories of our childhood in our book, While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s, which takes you on a notably historic journey through that often forgotten decade. We also want to hear about your experiences during the 1950s. We will feature guests whose special stories of that decade will bring to mind magical moments of reflection, some with tears, some with smiles, but above all, a good dose of laughter.
We would like you to chat with us as we bring to mind the sights and sounds so familiar to that time in history. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us again on this week's 1950s Fun Chat as we explore the area of holiday music in the 1950s. We've had wonderful guests from Thanksgiving time on until now. This will be December 26th, the day after Christmas, that we're airing this broadcast. And it is amazing to learn of the different situations and that brought music into the lives of each of our guests. And not only did these situations and these happenings in the 1950s occur in the state of North Dakota, which we are featuring, many of our guests are from, but it was all around the country and around the world. Christmas music is a wonderful, wonderful part of the holiday season. But what our fun chats are hopefully sharing with you is, how did this get started? What was the influence of holiday music? And each of our guests have their own unique story. So Jackie, how could you introduce our guest today?
Well, first of all, we'll do some housekeeping. And that is, guests, please look at your screen and peruse it. And you will find on the bottom a purple banner running across the bottom that says www.whilethewindmillwatched.com. So this is your source of information about our book, about the authors, the events that we attend, the fun chat, and the vendors that we have throughout the area. Also, up in the upper right-hand corner, look at that beautiful book with the North Dakota sunset, which wraps around it. That is While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s. You'll see a silhouette of a windmill and two little girls. And you'll need to open the pages of that book to find out what those silhouettes represent. So also on the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a little white dot. Well, that little white dot indicates something that happened to the book this year. In April of this year, the book was awarded the National Independent Press Award in regional nonfiction category as a distinguished favorite. So we're really happy to have been able to add that little label to our book. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Linda Polrice Donlin. She was born in 1952 in Carrington, North Dakota, and raised on a farm near Sykeston, North Dakota. The eldest of 7 children, 4 girls, 3 boys in that order. Her dad and uncle had a large farm and cattle operation, and all the children were involved with it from early age. The operation also employed several hired men. And because of that, at one time, there were 3 houses and 2 trailer homes on the farm, and 25 children got on the bus at the same time to go to school. Linda's education began at St. Elizabeth Catholic Elementary School in Sykeston. It was there that she acquired a solid foundation in writing, as well as her love of music and art. She had begun drawing and singing long before she started school, but the presentation sisters fueled that love. Linda has a bachelor's degree in organization leadership with a minor in public relations and communications, and a master's degree in management with an emphasis in human resources from the University of Mary in Bismarck. Linda and her husband Charlie currently live in Bismarck, North Dakota most of the year, but spend part of the winter in Arizona. They have a blended family of 5 children and 9 grandchildren. So, Linda, welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. We're glad you're here with us.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, our
Pleasure.
pleasure.
So, we'll begin. Since Christmas music is the central theme of this chat, let's begin by hearing how your family and your early education influenced your musical memories during the 1950s. That's a broad topic, but just start and keep going.
All right, well, I think I'd have to start with Sister Rose, who was our music teacher at the St. Elizabeth Catholic School. She always told us, she repeated St. Augustine's quote quite often, that singing is like praying twice. And she was a big influence on my musical career. She was the organist, and I can still see her in our music room playing the pump organ. And she was a very short lady, and her legs were going, and she was sweating and getting all red while she played the accompaniment for us as we all practiced. And Sister Mary John, who was the principal, would lead us in singing. And we did a lot from the Great American Songbook, and we had a few nuns that were Irish, so we learned a few Irish songs as well. And our choir was, the children that were in the 1st through 8th grades at the elementary school in Sykeston were also the church choir. So we spent a lot of our time at the church practicing and singing for various services. And my grandmother was also a very good singer. And she had this really beautiful high soprano voice. And I can remember her coming to daily mass where the children would all sit in the front rows and Grandma would sit right behind us. And I could hear her voice just floating across and cutting through everything else. I always admired that.
Yes.
I took piano lessons from Sister Rose, also in the nuns' quarters that was behind the school. And one of the memories of going back to the nuns' quarters there for my piano lesson was it always smelled like fresh baked bread.
Oh, yum.
There was always something in the oven for the nuns. And
Nice. Was Sister Rose the only one who taught piano in that area?
As far as I know, I think there were some other private music teachers in like adjoining towns, or maybe there were some farm wives also that taught piano. As later on, my children took piano lessons from various teachers around as well. But most of us remember Sister Rose and piano lessons.
Yes.
Okay.
With all the children who were getting on the bus from your farm, were all those children influenced enough by Sister Rose that they continued on with music in their lives? Are you familiar with that?
Oh, a lot of them were. A lot of my family sang. My youngest brother and I had a band together for 10 years as young adults. And we all sang at each other's weddings and various things. And I also sang a lot with my third cousin, Charlene, who was also my classmate. There were 4 girls in my class in St. Elizabeth's, and we were all pretty musical, but I was related to 3 of them. Or I was related to 2 of them. So only one was not a cousin. But Charlene and I particularly bonded, and we sang together a lot all through grade school and high school. And Charlene got a guitar, and I don't know remember if it was for her birthday or Christmas or something. I think early in her, either like in 8th grade or early high school. And then we really spent a lot of time singing together and doing various performances. And, in small...
What kind of music would you sing as a duo?
Well, we often did like songs that were popular. I remember one of the first times that we performed anywhere, it was for a 50th anniversary for somebody. We sang White Christmas. It was a December anniversary. But we did more as we went through high school, of course. We sang together, and we didn't have a lot of consistency in our music teachers at the high school level. They came and went a lot. And so I have to say that the principals and leadership in our schools kind of let us do our thing. We would, instead of going to the 9 o'clock study hall, for example, in high school, they would let us go down to the furnace room and practice our music, because they knew it was hard for us as farm kids to get together after school. So they kind of let us do what we needed to do. And so we would go down there, and we knew that there was an intercom in that room as well. So we knew that they could turn it on and listen anytime they wanted to see if we were actually doing what.
Yeah. Well, you were studying. You were just studying music.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes. Linda, was there a public school in Sykeston also?
Yes. There was the Catholic school went from 1st to 8th grade, and then the public school was 1st through 12th. So when we graduated from 8th grade at St. Elizabeth's, then we'd walk down a block, and that's where we went to high school. So there were 8 in my elementary school class, and then 20 in my graduating high school class in the public school.
Yes.
So can you say that you might have a favorite, both secular or sacred Christmas song?
Oh, I would say one of my favorite songs is "Oh Holy Night." And then also I would say Ave Maria too.
Oh my. Are you a high soprano voice?
I am.
Yes.
In a large choir I sang in the Bismarck Mandan Civic Chorus for 25 years. And I sang second soprano there, but most choirs I'm the first soprano. Yeah.
Okie
Well,
doke.
in Bismarck, you certainly have lots of musical opportunities to grow. Yeah, whether you are participating in those activities or as a spectator, it's amazing what that city offers. And even branching out from there, all of North Dakota, it seems to me that from the guests we have interviewed who grown up on the prairie during the 1950s, that music was a vital part of their lives, whether it came from singing in their families or their schools, but the cities and the schools had so much impetus in the value of music into a child's life. That's amazing how that all came about.
Yeah. And I think a lot of our parents and grandparents were all self-taught. I think that also influenced all of us too, to if we didn't have the opportunity for certain instructions, we would try to figure it out. That's why so many of us, I think, played by ear, when we learn music that way. If you didn't have a lot of opportunities for instruction.
When you sang a lot in schools and for community events, did you go outside of the community and do much singing? Or I'm thinking especially at Christmas time.
At Christmas time, I don't think we really did. One story about my cousin Charlene and I, we played together or sang together for so many different things, and we went to a talent show in Bowden, Dakota, which was just down the road from us, in our senior year, and we sang "Leaving on a Jet Plane," and we won the talent show.
Congratulations!
What did you win?
The winners of the talent show were sent to the Jerry Lewis Telethon recording in Grand Forks.
Neat.
That was quite an experience for us. For one thing, neither Charlene nor I had been to Grand Forks ever. And then our first experience was to be in a television studio where it was live TV, and we were performing. And I think the whole community, and I know especially our families, stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning till we were actually on. But it was great fun, and it was quite the amazing experience for both of us, and quite a confidence booster as well as what we had learned in our little town and what
Sure.
we stacked up against others, I guess.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you were on TV. Woohoo.
Yeah.
And what year was that, in the 50s, or was that later on, the 60s?
That would have been 1970, early 1970.
Oh, okay. That, all right.
Year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And did you sing the same song then that you sang when you won the contest?
We absolutely did. We didn't want to mess with success at all.
And why did you choose that one? Did you have, was it your deep down desire to leave on a jet plane, or did you like Peter, Paul, and Mary, or why that song?
I think it was just popular at the time. We learned it from the radio, and we had good harmony in it. I sang the soprano, and she sang the alto, and it was a fairly easy song to play. So we weren't worried if we got nervous, that we would get too mess up our thoughts too much, or mess up our song too much. But
do you remember any other talent that was performed at that time for that show?
I do remember we were one of the only younger groups. It was more older people playing accordions and doing more older songs. So we stood out a little bit in that regard. It was, and of course it was 3:00 in the morning too. So not very many kids were probably going to be on those.
Yes. Did you find that at that time of the morning, were you fresh enough that you could still sing with lots of enthusiasm and inflection?
Oh yeah, we were so excited. I don't think we slept at all that night. So even when we got back to the hotel, it was pretty exciting.
Did you do other things in Grand Forks then while you were there?
Pardon?
Did you do other things in Grand Forks while you were there?
Well, I do remember that we had the performance was on a Sunday night. So we came in on Saturday and stayed at a hotel. And I also hadn't stayed at hotels very much in my life either.
Sure.
But there was a wild party going on. There was a lot of college kids running up and down the hallways. And I remember Charlene saying, "I think this is where I want to go to school."
And did she?
And she did. Yes. She graduated from UND. Yes, she did.
All right. A party girl.
She was excited about all the opportunities offered in Grand Forks.
Okay. Did your family, tell me about your family's Christmas and their relationship to music. Did you carol? Did you sing around the piano? Did you, what did you do for Christmas music in your home?
Yes. Well, we always had records playing, or we had the radio on. As KDAK in Carrington was our radio station. They'd be playing Christmas music. But most of our Christmas music things revolved around church and getting ready for midnight mass. And, in those days, we did have midnight mass at midnight, which most churches don't do anymore. But our Christmas tradition was we didn't really decorate or anything until Christmas Eve day. So we had a marathon day on Christmas Eve. Yeah. So I remember Dad going to Carrington and getting the tree and bringing it home, be out in the garage for a couple days before he'd bring it in, because it was Advent for us until
Christmas
Eve. So then Dad would bring the tree in, and we would all help decorate, and we'd be baking cookies and wrapping, doing things. But at 10:30 at night, we would go to town and go to church, and we would rehearse for about an hour. And that at our church then at about 11:30, we would start doing carols, and people would start coming. The church was always packed.
I bet.
And midnight mass then started, at midnight, and it would go for more than an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. There's always lots and lots of music involved during the mass, and extra songs after communion, and but you never really felt tired. But I can remember though that most of the time we didn't get home till like 2 a.m. And then all the little kids would go to bed, but sister and I would stay up with mom and sometimes dad and wrap more presents.
Oh my. You slept the next day.
Yeah, we collapsed the next day, but I can still remember sitting at the kitchen table and mom coming out from a closet and we're going, oh, not another one. Oh no.
Back to your midnight mass. Back to the midnight mass. What did you have? Was it candle? Everybody held a candle. Was it a candlelight service?
There was a lot of candlelight. Yes. I don't remember that it was throughout the church, but depending on what priest, different priests like to do different things, but some, yes, had candlelight. Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. How did you decorate your Christmas tree? Were there special ornaments that were used in the 50s?
Yes. Well, we had a lot of old-fashioned ornaments, and I know we used the big Christmas lights that are all, huge bulbs like that big, and lots of tinsel.
Yes.
Lots of homemade ornaments too. Mom saved everything that we made in school, and put those on the tree and with our names on them. I can also remember my grandma at her house across the street from the school. She had one of those aluminum Christmas trees with the light thing that would go around.
Yeah.
It was
strobe light kind of thing.
Yes, you could see it in the whole street. You could see that whole thing. All the colors reflecting on that tree in her front window.
Sounds as if she was beyond tradition.
Yeah. She didn't want to have any real tree in her house. She just wanted that nice aluminum tree.
Yeah.
How long did you keep your tree up? Your fresh tree?
We always kept it up until January 6th, which is Epiphany. And it was also my brother's birthday. So my brother Larry's birthday. So it was always the tradition to take it down on his birthday.
Yeah.
And when you took those icicles off the tree, did you save them or did you throw them, or what happened with those icicles that were so painstakingly put on?
Well, I think the tinsel went. I think we threw that. I remember getting the new boxes. It was a big box with all that tinsel in that we'd put on the tree every year. We'd pack away all the ornaments in a box, and
we saved ours year after year.
Did you ever save wrapping paper and ribbons?
Oh yeah, we saved a lot of wrapping paper. Yeah,
I still do.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially the bows. Hurry up and put those back in a box and stick them back on.
I know there were some folks in the 50s who made little ornaments that, well, in our case, we would often save the aluminum from the piece, or the tin, or the foil from the piece of chewing gum, and then you'd separate the paper part from the foil, and then Mom would save that, and you get a bunch of it. Then you can make a Christmas ball out of it to hang on the tree. Very frugal.
Right. That was left over from her childhood, or so he passed that on.
I know. I did hear that one of my classmates' mothers she would set up the ironing board right in the corner while they're opening presents, and as soon as the wrapping paper came, she would iron it and then put that wrapping paper back in a box for next year.
Yes.
I do that. That's left over from Mom.
Linda, did you ever pop string popcorn or cranberries and put on your tree?
I think we did the popcorn once, but I think Mom decided that was too much of a mess. We weren't going to do that again. But
and it takes a lot of it.
Yeah. We were big into making things too. We would, I always like to draw, and so if there anything needed to be created, we would figure out a way to create it. We'd come up with something.
Well, Linda, you are so musical, and tell us also about your artistic talents, your painting talents, and how they became developed.
Well, I think that also came at the Catholic school, and I of course I always drew, and I think I did like almost like little comic books before I even started school, where I drew pictures and then wrote little stories to go along with them. But when I got into school, then we didn't really have art class, but we'd have art projects and things to do. And it became pretty obvious that I kind of was pretty good at drawing and putting things together. So I remember as we're doing a lot of programs, like the musical part of the program, then it would also need to have something illustrated, whether it was for a backdrop or for the program or any things like that. And I was often called on to help with that as well. And I can remember my cousin saying to me, I don't know how you can draw those people to look like people.
Right.
That's a gift. Definitely a gift.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, and
definitely.
I did a lot of drawing. I drew some pictures of my brothers and sisters that we took to the state fair, and I won, or not the county fair. We didn't go to the state. I didn't go to the state fair. Went to the county fair and won a blue ribbon for those pencil drawings that I did of my brothers and sisters.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do
you still have those drawings?
I don't. We were just talking about that one day. So I sure wish I knew what happened to those.
Yes.
I do have one. I do have a pastel drawing that I did though early on. I think in 4th or 5th grade, that also went to the fair and won a blue ribbon.
Neat. Was that encouraged? Was competition like that encouraged in your family?
Yes, I think as much as possible. I think a lot of the fair related activities though were being part of 4-H. I was in 4-H and I was terrible at the sewing part. Terrible. But I did okay at the cooking and baking and things, but they also encouraged us to try other things, that were what we were good at. And my dad had a large farming operation, so it was a feedlot and things. So we didn't really do much like showing animals or anything at the fair. That was more the all business part of it. But we were encouraged to be in 4-H, and so we participated in that way. And so that's kind of how I learned about entering various things into 4-H or into the fair. Yeah.
Yes. Were your parents involved at all as leaders in the clubs, or mainly encouragers for you?
Mainly encouragers. My mom was always very active in PTA and teaching religion classes, and my dad served on the school board and county commissioner and all that kind of stuff. I don't remember either one of them being leaders in 4-H, but they were plenty busy with the other things that they were involved in.
So
and my dad serving on the school board, by the way, was one of the reasons the Catholic school kids were allowed to ride the school bus, because for many years they weren't allowed. And so my mom would have to drive. My mom or dad would drive us to school every day, which was quite a burden for a farm family to get your kids to school in time and then come pick them up at 3:00 and bring them back home while you're busy on the farm.
Yeah.
So, and there was, I don't know exactly how it came about, but of course the Catholic school kids' parents paid taxes too. And eventually they were going to go attend the high school. So somehow our school board passed that Catholic school kids could ride the bus too. So then all of a sudden, boom, there we all are. Yeah. And I think they had to buy a few more buses.
So it must have been a financial situation. So your Catholic school board needed to perhaps pay some money to the district for that privilege.
It's possible. I don't know. I don't remember those details as a child, but I just remember that all of a sudden we're going to be able to ride the bus. And my mom was really happy to not have to be doing that running.
Yes.
Yeah. So did everyone, member of your family, all the siblings, did they play an instrument or did they sing? Or so you were musically gifted in other ways?
Yes, most of our family played an instrument, or at least always started out with the piano. Started out taking lessons from Sister Rose, and then see what developed after that. One of my biggest regrets in life that I had to choose between playing the piano and playing trumpet because I was needed too much at home to be able to stay after school for any lessons. So I could take either piano or trumpet during the day. I couldn't get out of school enough to do both. So of course I wanted to be cool and play trumpet and go over to the high school then. So I was probably, I think 5th or 6th grade is when they started us on the band instruments. So got to get out of school and walk over to the public school and take band there and then come back. So that meant I had to give up piano lessons. But so that was, I should have probably gone and done more of that later in life when I had the opportunity. But I still play a little bit, but just enough to learn songs, basically.
Yeah.
Did you study any music when you were in college?
I did not. No, I went strictly into business, and then, but I always did music on the side. It was always, like I said, my brother and I had a band for 10 years, and when we finally decided to quit our band, actually more when I moved to Bismarck, it took us a year to actually quit because we had so many wedding dances and things booked up for that next year that we had committed to, that we didn't want to let those people down. So we took the year until it was our final performance.
Yes. Did you have a retiring concert? A retirement concert?
Not that I recall. No, I think it was time to move on to the next thing.
Okay, sure.
But I've always sang at weddings. For a while there, I sang at just about every wedding there was in our hometown, and it would. And also during the time when I was in the band, it wouldn't be unusual for me to go sing at the wedding, be all dressed up, and then go home, change into the band clothes, pack up the band gear, and go to town and play at the wedding dance. And especially, of course, for our relatives and close friends, it was often the package.
Yeah. You were a valuable part of that community.
For sure.
We had
a Linda show.
A lot of good musicians too. It was, and it was fun too to see other musicians, like the gal I used to babysit for also kind of followed in my footsteps, and she became a very good singer, and she and her girlfriend did a lot of shows around town and kind of did the same thing. So you see that happening in the next generations too.
That's good.
Have your children carried on with that music tradition?
Oh, certainly. Yes.
Good.
My oldest son, Mike, one of the reasons that we did move to Bismarck was to give our children more opportunities, and especially Mike. He was the oldest, and we didn't really have much for a music program. And I was offered a job in Bismarck at Basin Electric at the time. I had been working for Tri-County Electric in Carrington, doing writing of their center pages for the REC magazine. And a job opportunity came up at Basin Electric in the communications department. So I applied for that job, and Mike was going into his junior year, and he is a very talented musician. And so it was a great opportunity for him to come and move from a small school, Sykeston, to Bismarck. It was also quite difficult because they had a very small class, and then all of a sudden be thrust into a very large class at Century High School in Bismarck. But
and then the peer pressure too.
Yes. And I think it was for my kids too, it was also quite the eye-opening experience, because when you come from a small school, you do everything. You're in the football team, you're on the basketball team, you do speech, you're in music, you do everything there is to do. When we got to Bismarck, it became more clear that you had to make some choices. because there are some that are a lot better than you at some of these things, and maybe you need to focus where your talents lie. But for my kids, the biggest opportunity was in music, and my son Mike, and actually all three of my kids at the time were involved in the very first performance of the Sleepy Hollow Summer Theater.
Oh, yes.
And Mike had the male lead role in Annie Get Your Gun, and made some lasting friendships, and then kind of, I think, cemented his career path. And he's now a choir director at Legacy High School in Bismarck. And
okay,
wonderful. He's been music in Bismarck his whole career.
Well, that's a good place to be.
Yeah, and I had a daughter who's a ballerina and loves music and grandchildren. My other son plays several instruments, and so yes, music has been a powerful force in all of our lives.
Yes, yes. So, Linda, would you say that in the 1950s that music has been most influential in your adult life?
Oh yes, I would say that what I learned in the 50s and 60s, and what I was inspired to learn, despite not having real formal instruction, helped cement my love of music, and also my my determination, and maybe realization that you can do anything you put your mind to if you really want to.
Yes. And I always like to ask this question of our guests, because we are a fun chat. What was a fun memory that you remember about the 1950s?
Well, about the 1950s, I would say that it's all of our family activities. You know, we all had to work hard, but we also did everything together. I mean, it was, whether we're taking lunch out to the field, or whether we are sitting around TV watching Lawrence Welk, or everything was all together in our family group or in our community group. Yeah. Yes. And as I talked about too, with our, because our farm was a little bit different from maybe some of our neighbors, we had almost like cousins, even though they weren't. Some were our cousins, but the hired man, or who was the foreman of our farm, who lived next door to us in the house, but on our farm, his daughter, Coraline, was my classmate. And so we often in the summer, we would come up with our own entertainment, and we would put on little shows for the neighbors. So we had an old granary behind the house.
Oh, cool.
I think it was used to store seed and things like over the winter time. So like clean seed that was getting ready to be planted the next year would be stored in sacks there in that granary, but there would be open spot in the summer after the seed had been used. So we would have put on little plays there, and we would invite like my mom's friends. So they would basically come over, and they would have coffee and smoke their cigarettes, and while they watched us do our little plays that we just made up.
I bet the acoustics were marvelous in that granary.
It actually was a wooden grain bin. I think at one time it was probably an old house, as I remember. I think it did have windows on one side that were like boarded up, but but it was like an old house. I can still remember what it smelled like in there. With like musty grain, old grain smell. Yeah.
Maybe the smell of rodents.
Yeah, too? Probably.
Musty. But all those wonderful memories are etched in our mind, and were so influential to us as children, and even as we grew into adulthood. Thank you, Linda. This has been marvelous to have you as our guest today. Viewers, our guest has been Linda Donlin. She is a native of Sykeston, North Dakota, but now resides in Bismarck most of the time when she and her husband are not living in Arizona. And so, Linda, we thank you. This has been a pleasure to have you with us. And
Thanks so much for having me.
you are
Mhm.
welcome. And so, viewers, until next time, we want you to just reflect on the 1950s and the Christmas time, the holiday season, what it was like in your family. It could have been completely different from Linda's family, but yet, yeah, well, we hope that there was joy and happiness throughout that season also, and that there was music in your home and music in your life that has put a bounce in your step and a smile on your face. And so until next time, we look forward to seeing you and hope you will join us again on the 1950s Fun Chat. And
But
Jackie,
don't go away.
yeah,
I've got
how
more
can you
things
close
to
us
tell you
out?
about. I just want to encourage our audience to press that red button, the subscribe button. Also to put the click on the blue thumbs up button. And we would like to have you tell your friends and even your relatives about the 1950s Fun Chat. So until next time, toodaloo.